Thank you for joining us on the Kentucky Couple Travel Podcast. I'm Clifton.
And I'm Whitney.
So, on this episode, number 11, we're going to talk about home. We're going to talk about the state of Kentucky. And if we're being honest, it's really a state we may have explored maybe not as much as other states in some ways. Kentucky, it's not big compared to like Texas or Alaska or California, but it still is.
It's an amazing state.
Well, it is amazing, but it's almost like different regions, and like
it's really
Eastern Kentucky could be a completely different state than Western and Central Kentucky. So we've been all over, but really just to travel and maybe for recreation. Usually when we've been somewhere in Kentucky, it's kind of been for a purpose, like for business or something.
We're passing through.
But we just want to share some of the great things about our home state that we love. And I can honestly say I've been asked this a lot lately since we've started this podcast is everybody's like, okay, where's your favorite place to go? And we may actually do a episode coming up soon. It's just, all right, what are your top 5 vacations? But my answer is usually home. I love Kentucky.
Yeah,
I love
like
home. I know we're both teachers, and with that comes the luxury that, we could go anywhere and teach school. But I love home.
Yeah, me too.
And I love it here. And
funny enough that as much as we travel, that this is still my number one place.
Yeah, and
I'm just as happy here at my house as I am in Alaska.
Yeah.
I enjoy traveling, but
to me, the beauty doesn't compare everywhere else. To me, it's you can go see the water at the ocean, and you have beautiful water here. You can go see the mountains of Alaska, and we have beautiful mountains here. And Kentucky is so unique in the sense that there's a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And
people really love Kentucky's. People are just very prideful to live here, I think.
I think so.
Because when we travel, like you see Kentucky, there's people always their shirts say Kentucky.
Yeah.
Even not just basketball Kentucky, it just says Kentucky, you know. And you don't get
half
that
of
a lot
Whitney's
places.
wardrobe is referencing the state of
It does
Kentucky.
in some form or fashion.
So we've about had an intervention with her. She's had a self-intervention. Like, I have too many T-shirts. And I'm like, they all say Kentucky.
I know.
So we're going to go ahead and get into this. And like we always do, our top 5 list. And maybe a negative that I have. It's kind of different than usual, but something I would like to talk about. So let's go ahead and start. Whitney, what's your number 5 favorite thing to do or about or in Kentucky?
I kind of put places on mine. My number 5 is kind of split. This is going to happen a lot with this one.
Yep.
I've got a lot that's kind of a big group, but
I do too.
Number 5 is the Pinnacle or the state parks.
Mine is number 5. Yeah, Cumberland Gap and the Pinnacle.
Well, that's weird. We didn't talk about it.
Yeah, well, Cumberland Gap's a national park.
Yeah.
And but also I think I very easily could have went like Cumberland Falls.
Yeah. Well, let's just get there.
Okay.
Hold your tighter there. I put that in general with the parks too, because I just really let me see if I took it on there. Yeah, I think okay. So that's I told you 5 and 4 was going to be similar. 5 and 4 is the Cumberland Falls, the Pinnacle, and just the parks in general. I think we have some really cool parks.
I do too.
And I didn't realize how fun they could be until we worked some summer programs. And we would and they're free a lot of times, so we would take the kids to those like free things to do, and they're really cool.
Yeah, we live in Harlan County, kind of like 2 minutes from the Bell County border, and that's right in the far southeast corner. Bell and Harlan, both, they kind of back up into Virginia and Tennessee, and so we work in Bell County. But the Pinnacle, for those listening that may not know, and I've been shocked before, people that live here that don't know about the Pinnacle or don't know what it is.
And a lot of times when you go there, it's people that's not from here. It's a lot of people from away from here.
So the Pinnacle, in short, it's an overlook in the Cumberland Gap National Park. And the Cumberland Gap, if you don't remember from your middle school history class, is where Daniel Boone led pioneers through the Cumberland Gap, which is literally a gap in the mountain. And so for hundreds of miles each direction, the Appalachian Mountains were this natural boundary for people that were trying to settle America. As they tried to move west, there's this huge mountain range that kind of blocked them from moving west. And the Cumberland Gap was kind of a low spot in the mountains. It was kind of a valley that the settlers were kind of able to move through. And so it literally is a gap in the mountain. And now it's a part that commemorates that.
But the cool thing is that when you get on top of it, there's a spot and you can stand in three places at once: Kentucky, Virginia, and Tennessee.
Yeah, which where all three states come together. And that's kind of, that region has been important to both of us. We both graduated from LMU, which is just on the Tennessee side of the border. But my favorite part of it is the overlook. I just think it's beautiful. You can just see. You
can see little towns out in all parts of, different parts of Kentucky, Virginia.
And it's got it labeled, all right, when you're looking this direction, you're looking into Virginia, or this direction into Tennessee. And you can see, the communities of Middlesboro and Harrogate and Cumberland Gap. And
there's so much hiking there, too. I'm not really much of a hiker. We do walk. We took the kids on there in the summers. But and sometimes my friends and I too would walk some of the trails, but there's a lot of extensive trails that you can take if you like that sort of thing. It's just very interesting. I've always loved it. And in general, like I said, I just love I love those parks because I didn't realize how fun they would be and how much there is to do here locally.
And a lot of history.
Well, a lot of history. I think that one specifically has a little museum type thing. The kids always really enjoyed it because there's a lot of play areas there for the kids. There was a place they played and stuff. We went, I remember. And so that was my number 5 is the Pinnacle, and the parks, and then my number 4, because it's a park, was Cumberland Falls. Yep. So
I think when you look at those together, Cumberland Falls is on the Cumberland River, and both of those combined really demonstrate the beauty of Kentucky to me, and that it is unique in this part of the country, and particularly this part of the state.
Too,
yeah, it's two different. Even though one's Cumberland Gap and one's Cumberland Falls, they are they're maybe an hour and a half away from each other.
I love the falls. I had never been until I went with some of my friends and family, and it wasn't too long ago. It was probably 5 years ago or so, but that's the first time I'd ever been, and I had never. We went up there and we walked through there, and there's the tree that's hauled out. You can get in, and they have a gift shop, and there's a lot of people, a lot of different places you can walk and see the falls itself and take pictures. I loved it, and it's pretty crazy that I lived here that long and had never been, but I really thought it was cool.
Yep. So familiar with the Corbin? You're right there at it on
KFC.
On 75.
Corbin KFC. Colonel Sanders is
the first KFC, I guess.
So that's cool too. I'm aiming to go in there and see that little museum too.
Yeah, we've never been there.
No,
actually.
we drove through the window. Yeah, but that's in Corbin, and it's pretty cool. It's a really cool thing to check out.
Yep. So I think we collectively put the beauty of Kentucky higher on the list, but those kind of together really demonstrate that. All right, so that was your 4 and 5. It was my 5. So my 4 really gets us a little closer to home, and it's Portal 31 and the Coal Mining Museum here in Harlan County, and particularly the Cumberland, Benham, Lynch area. That's kind of known as the Tri-Cities here in Harlan County, and so Portal 31 is relatively new in the last few years. I've been able to take school trips there, and we've went kind of with my parents as a family. We've went, but it's an interactive tour. A gentleman or someone will be your tour guide, and he will kind of drive a little tram or man car back into what was once a working coal mine.
Mm-hmm. He had some cool stories when he.
Yeah, so he was telling us all about it, and there's different
ghost stories too.
Yeah, there's different stops, and it kind of takes you through the history of coal mining. And for Eastern Kentucky, and the same with kind of Western West Virginia and Western state of Virginia and Pennsylvania, that was the lifeline of this region for generations and generations, and it was the lifeline for my family. And so, it kind of goes and starts when they were, taking horses and donkeys back into the mountains and hand, loading this and, taking it out on horseback up until modern times. And it was just each stop you make on this tram, you're going further underground. I think by the end of it, you're 2 miles under this mountain, and you're just kind of working your way forward in time. And so it's just amazing. And I know they are in the process of, if they've not already completed it, updating that even more, and it's going to be even greater. And I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to go back.
Which I really like the little like dummies, or what do they call them?
Like animatronics.
Yeah, I like that because I think that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I think you think they're a little creepy, but but honestly, I really liked that. That's a neat little town up there. They had a really cute little coffee shop across the road that we went in. But
nice people that were willing to let some middle school kids use their bathroom.
Yeah, shout out to them, right?
Yeah.
But I'm gonna be honest, like I love that and I enjoyed it, but I don't know. I would do it one more time or do it again. I don't know. I got really bad anxiety in there, and I know I didn't really mention it a whole lot, but I had was a little claustrophobic.
Yeah.
And that's odd. I've never done that before.
Well, and if you don't know what to expect when you go back into a mines, it's different because you are inside of a mountain.
And it's not like, it's plenty big enough that you can move around. So it's not like that. You could walk forever, but I think for me, like when we stopped and everybody was talking and stuff, I started getting this feeling like, oh my gosh, I am underground. I am it, and I felt claustrophobic. So that is something to be aware of. If you are a claustrophobic kind of person, I've never done that in my life.
So, I kind of knew what to expect, and I'd been in it before, and Whitney hadn't. I took a school group, but like she said, it's probably 10 or 20 feet wide. You're cut out. There's a train track, that you're riding this little cart that, you're safe. They've took, extra precautions.
Oh,
to make sure
it's
this
very
is
safe.
And it's, the roof is probably, 10 to 15 foot high in places.
It's like a big cave almost.
But it still is very enclosed compared to outside.
It
and above ground.
I ain't gonna lie.
And 2 miles is nothing compared to what these miners go to.
It gives you a good perspective.
Yeah. Well, and so like we said, you're looking, 10 to 15 feet high, well over our head. It's like being in a big room almost. But just knowing you're back in the mountains. My dad, he worked several years in the mines before he got hurt and retired. But his first 10 years in the mines, he worked in coal that was 28 inches high. So, hold your hand a little over 2 foot off the floor.
No way for me.
And
that's a no-go.
Imagine working there for 10 years,
I just can't imagine.
10, 12-hour shifts, sometimes more. And he said, you're laying on your side pretty much the whole time. You're working to control these miners, and you're shoveling from your side, and maybe crawling in some places, maybe where it's kind of hollowed out and the floor's a little lower, and you might get up to 30 to 35 inches or something. But just knowing you're working there, and that's what so many people did for their families, and I can't imagine.
It gives me a greater appreciation because that is how my family mostly made ends meet for a long time on both sides. But it gives me a great appreciation for miners and what they do. And how hard it is. But honestly, I can say that is one of the coolest things I've ever done. But I did have pretty bad claustrophobia. So
so if you're like Whitney and don't prefer to go back in the mines, just a couple miles back down the road is the Coal Mining Museum. Which
I need to go check that out because we didn't get to go the day we went.
Yeah, it was.
And I haven't been in since I was a kid.
Yeah,
I don't remember it.
I've been fairly recently, and I'll just say it's great. There's so many artifacts and examples of even more details of what these miners went through, especially in the early days when these mines were first getting up and started, and maybe pre-unions when they come in, and it's just so interesting to just see the history of not only our our region here in the mountains, but of the coal industry as a whole. So we couldn't recommend it enough. If you live here and you've never been to that area, Cumberland, Benham, Lynch, go check out Portal 31, check out the Coal Mining Museum. I think it'll make for a great day. When we were there was actually another couple. We were waiting on them to finish their tour before we got started and kind of made friends with them. They had drove all the way from Colorado just to come and do this exhibit. So it's really a great thing that I can't recommend enough. So let's go ahead and
real quick, the name of the coffee shop, I wanted to look it up because I wanted to give them a shout out. If you're there, go. It's called the Lamp House Coffee Shop.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So yeah, check them out.
And there's one other thing, and I hope this is on your list. Just another few minutes of driving, and you can be there. If you go past Portal 31 and keep going to the highest point in Kentucky.
I wasn't thinking about that. But it's really awesome.
I
loved it.
It's Black Mountain.
We saw a lot of bears when we went and stuff.
So you're right on the Virginia border, but it's the highest point in Kentucky, and just to drive up there is beautiful. But there's not a lot there. There's an old fire tower, and there's a little marker on the ground that says you are now at the highest point in Kentucky on top of this mountain.
Neat.
But it's
worth going to.
It's worth going to.
Harlan sounds pretty cool.
It is, and it's cool. I mean, it's unique, and we could do an entire episode, and we may one day, on kind of the history of Harlan County and this area. Harlan and Bell, Leslie, kind of where our family's from. Those three counties. There's so much history and so many things that went on. Like we said, from Daniel Boone to the coal mines and the coal wars in Harlan. So there's so much we could talk about. But we'll go ahead and move on to your number 3.
I think you're going to be shocked that I put this on there because I always complain, but it's Lake Cumberland.
Well,
my number 3 is Lake Cumberland.
That is my number 2.
I'm surprised that's not your number 1.
It would have been, but there's something very special on number 1. So Lake Cumberland, as far as a location, is my tops. I love it. I'm open. I could live there. We have a family cabin that is in Russell County on Lake Cumberland that's been there now. I guess I will be technically the 4th generation. Is my mom's grandfather bought the land and built the cabin. My dad bought it off him. So that goes down to, I guess, a 3rd generation. And he bought it from him, and he's built onto it and added onto it and kind of modernized it a little bit. And then now to me.
Not very modern, though.
Well, compared to an outhouse, it is.
That's true.
But it is my favorite place in the world. I mean, I would be happy if every vacation, when he's like, all right, it's time to go to the cabin. It's where I love. And it's just.
That's how I feel about Dollywood and Pigeon Forge.
But I mean, it's just where I like to be.
It is beautiful. It's a that part of the country, that part of Kentucky, it's beautiful too.
You're out of the mountains, so you're kind of in the central part of the state, and it's what kind of gets to lake region. From there over, past Bowling Green and the Mammoth Cave area, and then to like the land between the lakes. It's kind of that central part of Kentucky, but to me, Lake Cumberland is just so special. It's the Cumberland River that passes right by our house. 3 hours away, ends up right there, and it's just where I've made a lot of memories in my childhood, and that I could live there. It's just where I could retire to. So I love it there. I don't know why. What makes it so special? I guess it's just the memories, and the beauty of it. I love to fish, but I love to just be there. I love to just go out on the boat, and especially in the evening, kind of the edge of dark, and I could just sit there if I never put a line in the water and just be a happy camper, just listening to kind of the crickets sing and the birds chirp, and I would be happy.
I just think it's a beautiful lake. I've seen a lot of lakes. We're close to some popular lakes, and I just think it's one of the prettiest ones. I think it's, of all the ones I've been to, it's my number 1. It's a beautiful, beautiful place to visit, and I mean it's fun. I enjoy it. I do poke fun. And I'm always freaking out because the cabin is a little old and nobody's there all the time, so it does get a few bugs sometimes, maybe a mouse or two occasionally, and that does freak me out. So it takes me about a day, one night at least, and maybe another day to get used to it and kind of make sure all the bugs are dead and everything. But once I get there, I enjoy it. So
Whitney always makes fun of me. I mean, if anybody out there is Seinfeld fans, there's the famous episodes where George's soon-to-be father-in-law, entrusts him to go to this cabin. He's like, my father's dying words was respect the cabin. And I think Whitney thinks I kind of act like that sometimes, like it's almost
I give
like
him the benefit of the doubt. And
almost like it's a holy ground or something. Like
it's that way.
You should pay tribute to it. But
and I think I know it's because you grew up and that's your memories. And I guess if it had been my memories, I probably feel the same way, because that's how I feel like when I go to Pigeon Forge, because that's the memories I have with certain people, and I understand. But we are making memories there, and I do enjoy it.
Yeah, I love it.
We've been together, we've been married almost 12 years, and we were together 4 years before that. So what's that, almost 16 years?
16 years.
So I've been going with you since we started dating, and it's starting to become like memories for me now because it's been a while.
Yeah, I just love it. Like I said, it's like everything else. It's changing. It's growing. It's a really remote area that I honestly always thought would stay the same. I was like, this would be the last place civilization gets to, but it's not. It's growing and changing, and never know what the future holds. But for now, it's still my favorite place on earth. So I guess that'll get to since that was my number 2. I'll go ahead and do my number 3, and I'm sure it's probably on your list in some form or fashion, but it's Lexington.
That's my number 2.
Yep. So this
What'd
is
you
knocking
say?
our 2s.
Your number 3?
Yeah. So and my number 2 was Lake Cumberland. So we had those switched. But I love Lexington.
I love it.
There's a lot we could talk about in Lexington. So why don't you tell me kind of what your favorite thing about Lexington is?
I always love Lexington because besides Pigeon Forge, that's our other go-to place that we just will go spend the night sometimes, and because we like the Embassy Suites breakfast, or I do like to shop in Lexington. Like usually Lexington is like, we don't have a lot of big stores like Old Navy or like shopping mall, like the big stores, Hobby Lobby. So a lot of times that's our trip to go buy those types of things when we're not, going to Pigeon Forge or trying to avoid crowds. But we go shopping there. I love to go to the football games, basketball games, the UK stuff. I love I love the restaurants. We go up there. When you want a good restaurant, a lot of times we'll go. We have to go pretty far for like name brand restaurants. I mean, we're getting a few closer to us, but that's kind of the thing we had to do before. And
I think Lexington is unique in that even though it's a city, there's beauty to it.
It is really pretty. Yeah,
it's not just the skyline.
Well, there's like the horse park.
Yeah, the horse park is beautiful, and
I love
not just
it.
the horse park itself, but the individual horse farms. You can go down some of those roads, and they're just magnificent. When you're looking at, this
there's
farm,
the castle up there. I've never been, but we
this
drove
Kentucky
by.
Derby champion was born here, and this Kentucky Derby champion retired here or was bred here, and there's history to it, and there's just
which is funny because I know it's not
endless.
the capital of Kentucky, but it feels like it should be because it's so.
Well, it's central. Yeah. There's people from everywhere.
Both sides of the state.
It's kind of where the state merges together.
Everybody's doctors are there. It's just kind of like, it's like our town that's farther away than like going to Harlan or something. But it's just like, that's where we go for pretty much anything. We go to Lexington, and there's fun things to do. We're always finding something to do. We go, like, there's theaters, there's there's shows to watch, the concerts that come there, and there's just so much we do there.
Yeah. You mentioned it, but we've been season ticket holders for several years now for Kentucky football. We love that. We love going to watch a football game on Saturdays in the fall, and so going to Kroger Field could have easily been on the list by itself. But going to Rupp Arena and those things. If you're a Kentucky fan and not done those, especially. Everybody thinks about Rupp, but honestly, to me, the football atmosphere is just it's more enjoyable.
I remember my first football game, and I had never really been in a stadium that big, and it's just really cool. It's really nice. It's a nice stadium.
Yep. So
it's probably not the most fancy one that you can go to, but I think it's really nice.
But over the years, they've upgraded and it's growing and is becoming more modern. And I just think, I don't know, it's just
fun.
It's a great place. So we love that. We love everything UK sports. A lot. We've same with Cumberland. We've made memories in Lexington from maybe Big Blue Madness.
I think that's kind of our, like we talked, in our previous podcasts and stuff, like Pigeon Forge was kind of the thing we did as family, and it still is for us. But for us as a married couple, Lexington's what we've made in our home, I feel like Lexington's kind of our go-to place.
Yep. So we've been guilty of just, all right, we need to get away for one night. Let's just drive up there and maybe not tell anybody we're going until we're there, and just stay the night and come home and
it's funny because for Clifton's birthday, we love the Embassy Suites and they have an amazing breakfast. So I took him there for his birthday and we spent the night just for breakfast because we like it and it's relaxing.
Yeah, you just go and relax. Turn your phone off for a little bit and really not have any responsibilities. And so we like to do that. And there's. I'm a big sports fan, so just going there and hanging out and being around the things I grew up watching and seeing on TV is fun to me. So we love Lexington. I just think it's a city that I don't know if it has a reputation for being a great, just fun place, but I enjoy it, especially
it's a beautiful
especially being
city.
from the state. Yeah.
Because it's not super city when you think of a new, but it's got enough that it's like a city but it's still country atmosphere, the look
down
of
home.
it. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yep, I agree with that. All right, so let's go to your number one. I have no idea. Maybe I should. Maybe it's obvious and something I should put on my list, but I don't know.
My number one thing, period, ever is. I love to ride in the mountains. ATV riding, riding in the truck. We had a Jeep for a while, riding in the Jeep, whatever. We don't do that enough because that is my favorite thing to do. I could do that every single day. I like it that much. Yeah. And we do stay busy a lot, but we have a lot of reclaimed, I guess, strip jobs where they've fixed those and things, and there's so many places to ride, and it is it relaxes me so much to just jump in the side by side. We just drive across the road or down the road and we're up on top of a mountain and it's beautiful and peaceful, and sometimes there's elk or bears or it's just that's Kentucky to me. That's home to me. And I love to just be in the mountains. I love it.
It's easy to take for granted sometimes, I think. And, we drive through the mountains every day to get to work or to go to town. But just being back there, it is relaxing. I remember one time we was back there and we were just edge of dark, we were taking some pictures, and it was just so beautiful, that sunset. I remember you posted some online. Everybody's like, where are y'all at now?
Across the road.
People were like Ireland or something. Yeah. They were so green with that sunset. No, we're just across the road from the house.
There's a lot of wildish, I guess, horses that people have led up there, and you'll run into people. You may see so and so lives down the road, and you're just like, hey, how are you? And they're camping or building the fire. Or, sometimes you don't see anybody for miles and miles, and I love. It just really brings a lot of peace to my heart. I know that, in times that I've been super stressed or something, and just jumping in the vehicle or jumping in the side-by-side or four-wheeler or whatever, and just riding over there, and it just brings me peace, and it makes me feel close to home. And I always say this, I'm very spiritual and all that, but it just makes me feel close to God. When I'm on top of a mountain or out in the mountains and I see the creation, I just feel close to God, and I love that. I could probably have church outside every day. I love being outside. I
agree with that.
Love sitting on my front porch, and I just love being out in nature, and I feel like we have the best place for that. So,
yeah. Well, my number one is a little different, and maybe a week ago or 2 weeks ago, I wouldn't have put this at number one. But really, with everything that's been going on in our state, the number one thing I think about Kentucky is probably its people. That's kind of everything we've mentioned. That's kind of been the glue that held them all together. It's what they all have in common is Kentucky really is full of great people, and it's just unique. And you said it earlier, and you kind of hit on it. I thought you were going to kind of say what I was saying is, people from Kentucky are proud to be from Kentucky.
Yeah.
We've been places recently where everybody we talked to was trying to leave. And I always feel like sometimes everywhere we go, inevitably, we'll find somebody from Kentucky, and they're always trying to get back. They're trying to get home. And
yeah, I mean that's true. I was thinking about that because when we were like in Arizona, like close to the Grand Canyon, like a town not far from there, and this guy was like, he paid for our food and was like, it just made me feel good to feel like somebody was close to home.
Well, and then we had our meal paid for in New Orleans.
Yeah.
By this man. We were in this IHOP, and we were sitting there, and this guy come in, and he had this shirt on that was some town in Kentucky. I can't remember what it was. And I went to the restroom. I come back, and I was like, he was sitting by himself eating. I said, sir, I said, are you from Kentucky? He said, yeah. And I said, we are too. I said, we're just down here kind of on a vacation just for 3 or 4 nights, just a little getaway around Christmas. And I said we were, just kind of checking this place out. And he had kind of said he'd come down after Katrina to work, and he just always found steady work and kind of got caught up there. And it just kind of become home. But he said he was actually actively trying to.
He said, I just want to go home.
He said, I'm just ready to go home. And he was asking about home and different places. And we had a really good conversation. And we were sitting there. I told him have a good night. And we went back where we were eating our meal. And the lady come over and she's like, hey, your all's meal's on that gentleman over there. And, I went by and told him thank you again before we left. And talked with him just for a few more minutes before we left. But, that's kind of been a theme everywhere I've been. People, they love home. And I don't know if anywhere else, I've never lived anywhere else, so I can't say. But I don't know if any other state has that sense of home.
And I've heard people talk about that in other states. They're like people don't wear shirts that say Kentucky all the time. Like it's not like they're saying my state, whatever. And I've heard people say that, like, y'all wear a lot of stuff with your state name on it. And
whether it's UK and I see somebody on the street and it's a Go Cats, or whether it's just,
and you get that everywhere.
The Kentucky flag.
Yeah.
Whitney's got shirts.
I just got shirts as flowers. This is
Kentucky. Yeah.
And it's funny because, I just, I feel like I'm proud of my state and I love it. And and I feel like, like you said, I've never lived anywhere else. Been born and raised right here on this creek my entire life. Yeah. And I have I've traveled.
Good chance we'll die on this creek.
Yeah, we've traveled everywhere and, a lot of places, but it's great. It's a beautiful place to be.
Yeah, I love it. So that's Kentucky. And like I said, the reason part of that, our states went through a lot really this last year with the tornadoes in western Kentucky, and then this last week and a half with the floods here in eastern Kentucky. And just some of those stories have been so heartbreaking. But just then to see the help that, people from Kentucky, they don't wait on a handout for somebody else.
They don't even think about it. When somebody needs it, it's like, we got it.
Yeah, we got it. And so that's something I love about our state. And, I just hope anybody that is listening, make sure you're trying to do something to help a neighbor. Because right now I know there's a lot of people that need it. I was at a high school football game just last night, and one of the communities affected was playing, and it just kind of crushed my heart. I was leaving. I called the game on the radio, and I heard this mom, her son was coming off the field. They were going to the locker room, and she looked at him and she said, I got good news. And he's like, what is it? She's like, we're getting to go home tonight. And I was like, man, that's been a week. They've not been home. And so you're always praying and even hurting for those people. But I know people in Kentucky are some of the greatest and the greatest that I've ever been around. So that's what I love. And I guess that kind of just going to get to my negative, is that there's a stereotype about people from Kentucky, and particularly the people here of the mountains. And what I don't like is not that there is a stereotype, because, I'm sure we have biases against people from other places. I think, we've talked about it when we've talked about New York City. People's like, oh, well, that's not safe. How would you go and
We
walk
get
around
that
New
a
York
lot
City?
when we travel, though.
How would you go
People do
to
think
New
that.
Orleans, or how would you go to Las Vegas and do this or do that? And so there's biases. We know what we think a place is like.
Yeah.
And I think what I don't like is sometimes I feel like the people here in Kentucky, and particularly the mountains, they've listened to the bias, they've listened to the stereotype, and they've believed it. And they're like, you know what? I am stupid, or I am stuck here. And that's not the case. We've been all over the country and different parts of the world. And, there's wisdom in Kentucky. There's smart people in Kentucky.
Yeah, there's some people that may never. I know people that.
People in New York City.
Well, it's funny because I know people that probably didn't even go to the 8th grade, but can tell me things, and
that I could never figure out.
Their wisdom is beyond measure. I mean, it's just.
Yeah. So, that would be, I guess, my hope is that Kentucky realizes the people how great they are, and that their strength is in their community, and that they don't have to look down on themselves because anybody else
and
does.
that's something too. Like a lot of people's like, oh, I can't wait to get away. And I mean, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. If you want to move, you want to do this, whatever.
Yeah.
But you can do good here.
Yes.
Like there is a mindset sometimes that you have to leave to do anything. But I feel like we've been very blessed, and we live right here in the southeastern corner, and we've managed to do pretty well for ourselves.
Yeah, do just fine.
So I mean, we may not be the richest people in the world, but we're happy and we have what we need. And I just think that you don't have to always believe that. You can do good no matter where you're at.
Yeah, and
bloom where you're planted. So
it doesn't matter where you go. Just moving is not going to make you rich. It's not going to make you successful. You're going to have to work hard, whether you're here or whether you're in China or whether you're, no matter where you're at, you have to work hard.
It's all depends on your mindset and what you're willing to do.
Unless it's just some fortunate, lightning strike of luck, it's going to take hard work to be successful, and it's not going to matter where you're at.
And you can do it right here.
That's right. So, anything else you want to say before we go?
Nope. I think we've covered it. We have a great state.
Yep. So, we appreciate everybody listening. We're glad to kind of be back in the swing of these, and hope to be churning out plenty more for you lately. But like we've said time and time again, if there's any episodes, any places that you think we may have been, or you want to know more about, or recommendations you need to hear.
Any ideas for us on podcasts, we'll take them. We'll talk about anything.
On Facebook or Instagram. If you know us, give us a call.
And that's the thing. We are like the Kentucky couple that travels, but travel is a big, wide, broad thing. Yep. It can be anything. So we can talk about, even if we get a lot of questions just about simple. Down in Somerset, Kentucky, where's a good place to stay or eat or anything. We're open. So
yeah, I think that's one of our kind of. We've been open. We want to go to all 50 states, but we also want to hit all 120 counties in Kentucky.
Yeah.
Because
we just want to be here. Like, our goal, I think, is just to make traveling easy for people, to let you see that, you can do it. It's not that complicated. And if we can help you some way or somehow to know, just ask us. We're here, and we don't care to help you in any way, shape, or form. So. Yep.
So make sure you go follow us on our Instagram and our Facebook, the Kentucky couple. We're wanting to get more active, getting ready to start on our YouTube channel. All we have there right now is just some clips from Alaska, but you can go check those out.
I'm working on it.
And I think I'm going to put Whitney in charge of the YouTube side of things. She can make the videos, and I can do some editing.
We may have to do a Kentucky one next.
Yep, and so put some stuff out, just some of our visits.
Share it. Help us get the word out, because we're trying to help.
Also at KentuckyCouple.com, but don't forget, if you're listening to this and haven't already, make sure you subscribe, share the fire out of it. Just tell people, hey, here's a podcast, check it out. And we hope you'll do that. But we appreciate you listening. See you later.
See ya.